Have you ever wanted to lead a band of morally dubious mercs, tracking and taming boars, wolves, bears, and other dark creatures, robbing merchants and civilians alike, engaging in civil wars, political espionage, and plagues ravaging nations? Take on a variety of enemies like bandits, holy orders, underground monstrosities, and fearsome knights. Explore ancient ruins and sail the seas, becoming a fearsome warband during your playthrough. You can do all this and more in the medieval fantasy tactical RPG Wartales. This is Totally Relevant Reviews, the review channel where I write complete nonsense and fix it in post. Wartales was released in 2023, developed by Shiro Games and published by Shiro Unlimited. Shiro Games has a pretty impressive catalog of games: 3 Evoland titles, Darksburg, Northgard, and Dune Spice Wars. All of them getting pretty good reviews on Steam. Except that one, we're not going to talk about Darksburg. Wartales is an open-world, tactical role-playing game with some sandbox and management elements. You take control of a mercenary group as you roam the land, taking bounties, slaying monsters, taming wild beasts, battling civil wars, and more. This is a challenging game that allows you to explore an open world as you build your warband and gain fame and reputation. It entered early access in December 2021 and was released in April 12, 2023. Shiro Games is still actively working on Wartales, issuing minor and major updates to the game, and have already released 2 DLCs. They're uploading blog posts and roadmaps telling fans what to expect next. And even though the game isn't fully complete, some endgame features aren't there yet, but it has been well received by players and reviewers alike. Let's start with the foundation of a TRPG, the combat. The fights are great, most are challenging but not overly difficult, and aside from a couple of nightmare fights, they provide enough of a challenge to make you sweat but not smash your keyboard. Starting battles have you face bandits or wild animals. Like most games in the genre, you get loot after each battle. Harder enemies, better loot. The battleground changes depending on where you are on the map. Fighting underground, you have to worry about darkness and getting surprised by enemies. Fighting in the swamp makes you play around bogs and swarms of mosquitoes that can poison you. Forest battlegrounds generate plenty of trees that you have to position around. There's some interactivity with each of the maps, throw fallen spears, axes, sea urchins, and even pumpkins. Most enemies you see in the overworld can be interacted with. The right skill allows you to negotiate with bandits, who usually fight on sight. You can capture your enemies, giving some fun options like using them as laborers, or shaving them enough to give them Stockholm Syndrome. Tame wild animals and become the Beastmaster, allowing you to control wolves, boars, bears, and more. The fight sequences are fun, exciting, and testing. There are a variety of enemies, locations, and in some cases, wind conditions that can keep the combat fresh. For example, you can fight a bandit camp that will get reinforced every round until you are swarmed with enemies. You can get around this by finding the reinforcements in the area around the camp and stopping them. I will say that sometimes the battle sequence can get repetitive if you are fighting the same enemy over and over again. Good thing most regions have their own specific armor and weapons, giving unique bonuses to those who wear them. So if you want the combat to be different, you really should travel around the regions. But if you're going to be grinding one specific region and enemy, it's going to get repetitive. So maybe the most important aspect of a tactical RPG, the characters. There are several classes of characters that you can recruit: archers, brutes, rangers, spearmen, swordsmen, and the pugilist, however you say that. Your frontliners can either wield one-handed or two-handed swords, axes, and hammers. You have your typical archer and spearmen, and rangers can attack with knives and bombs. Each weapon gives your character different skill, like knocking back enemies with your sword or shooting volleys of arrows. Every character gains valor points, either through different resting bonuses or through combat skills. You can then use those valor points to spend on abilities during combat. Abilities like giving your team a bonus that doubles their movement range, or additional attacks. One of my favorite skills is the barrage skill for the archers. It works similar to Overwatch in XCOM. Your archer takes a shot at whoever walks into the barrage range. While it's not the best or most optimal skill to take, it's still a fun one to use to control whole areas of the map. In my first draft of the script, I originally thought that all the class skills were useful, unlike some other games in the TRPG genre. I'm looking at you, Battle Brothers. And after playing the game a bit more and reading more guides from people smarter than me, I've changed my opinion a bit. The updates added more to the skill trees from when I wrote my first draft, and while you can still use all the skills, you will have an easier time following a specific build. For example, there's an archer skill that gives you a valor point if you end your turn next to an enemy, but you wouldn't want your squishy archer next to enemies at all, so why take that skill? And even though some of the skills are not the best, they are still fun and can change the way you play Wartales. There's an entire line of skills for archers dedicated to using tamed beasts in your playthrough, giving you full control of them or copying the buffs they get. There's so many buffs and debuffs in Wartales, I honestly don't want to go through them now, but there are so many ways to go through combat, especially if you are not using the most optimal skills. When you start your game, your mercenary group has 4 characters, and you have some options in the character customization of those 4. You can change their appearance and look of your starting troop. The background of your party gives you some buffs and debuffs. Similar to other games in the TRPG genre, like Battle Brothers or XCOM, changing the names of your mercs lets you tell your story. So it's all about the stories you give them, just like Battle Brothers. Why don't you check out my review of the game? Sorry, I have to shamelessly plug it. That was so stupid. This aspect of the game is the least populated part of Wartales, but I'm not taking issue with it. Most games in the genre are like this, and I like creating my own stories with my units. There are several static unit encounters that you can get, and most towns have taverns where you can recruit units or take on jobs. During your battles, you can capture prisoners and eventually recruit them, leading to funny moments like having a character fall in love with a cave dweller, or having that same cave dweller play the lute for a crowded tavern. You can tame wild animals like wolves, boars, bears, giving you powerful units with unique skills. One large aspect of this game is managing a group, feeding, resting, and paying your troops. This aspect is really only difficult in the early stages. Once you get more money and food, as you get further into the game, it can become a chore. Healing your troops and repairing your armor is something you just have to do after each battle. Certain aspects of the campsite are exciting and allow you to do different things. The campsite allows you to build plenty of objects that allow you to craft, and other objects that benefit your troops. A strategy table allows you to choose different perks you can take into battle, like more deployment spots or giving attacks of opportunity 10% more damage. Building a company banner allows you to choose between several different overworld bonuses. If you're prone to thievery, you can choose a bonus that lowers your wanted level at a faster rate. If you want to train your men faster, the training dummy gives you more experience from battles. You can only build these locations with blueprints. Blueprints are needed to learn crafting recipes of not only the campsite locations, but alchemy, blacksmithing, and cooking recipes, and more. There are a handful of jobs you can give your troops, each with a passive and active abilities. The mining job allows you to mine ore and gemstones around the map, while giving you a passive stat to your strength. The thief job lets you steal from almost anyone around the world, while giving you a boost to your dexterity. All in all, Wartales is a great game. I put in a little over 90 hours in my first month of playing the game, and I still have a couple of regions yet to explore. The story is good. Each region has unique quests that add to the lore and history of the world. The unique quest lines offer unique experiences and introduce fun and interesting characters, and is just another star in this game. The combat is great, the world is great, fights are exciting and challenging, exploring the world is rewarding and interesting. There's so much that this world has to offer, and I can't wait to get back into this game. I really like diving into a game and researching the best gear, skills, you name it. I love when you can min-max a game, spend just as much time reading about it as you would playing it. So if you're like me in that sense, Wartales is the perfect game for you. But I've been gassing up this game for the past couple minutes, and I stand by it. There are some drawbacks to this game. The mercenary management aspect is probably my least favorite part about Wartales. It's interesting when you first start the game, when you don't have much, and you're learning new blueprints and building out your camp. But the further along you get, it becomes something you just have to do. I will say that picking troop bonuses is useful and lets you focus on farming equipment or experience, but other than that, camp management is pretty boring, and it's what I think is the worst part about this game. Shiro Games has done a wonderful job with this game, and I'm very impressed with it. I haven't reviewed many games here, but I've played a lot more, and Wartales has so much to offer. Shiro Games is still updating the game, and Wartales is only getting better. The low fantasy aesthetic fits so well, and the quests, combat, and world complement it all so well. I don't think I'll ever stop loving Wartales. It has so quickly risen to one of my favorite games in the genre, and it might be one of my favorite games ever. So please check it out. Wartales is definitely worth your time and money, and Shiro Games is definitely worth supporting. Thanks for watching my video. I put a ton of time into writing and editing it, so I'd really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of the video in the comments, and if you play the game, comment what you thought of it in the... Terrible! that's the... Here's what I wrote. If you play the game, comment what you thought of it in the comments. Where else would you comment? If you played the game, comment what you thought of it down below. Keep an eye out for another video in the next couple of months or so. I want to do a video on Chained Echoes, but let me know what video you would want me to do. Thanks.